Hey everybody, welcome to iTalk Movies here on Popcorn Talk. Today we're talking to Melanie Aitkenhead, the director of Lifetime Movies' latest film, Mother, May I Sleep with Danger. Let's do this.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's iTalk Movie.
Hey everybody, welcome to iTalk Movies here on Popcorn Talk. I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. My guest today is a director who hails from Guatemala City, Guatemala, and has a master's degree in film and television production from USC, where one of her teachers happened to be James Franco. Now they've reunited as co-workers for her latest project, which is Lifetime's newest film, Mother, May I Sleep with Danger, which just premiered last week. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for Melanie Aitkenhead. Hey, we're giving a big round of applause. Usually there's some cheering, some shouting, but look at that. Just imagine the crowd's going wild for this. Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I feel like I didn't quite say that because I know there's a question mark at the end of the title, so I feel like I should hit that with more of a questioning inflection. So I feel like Mother, May I Sleep with Danger?
Mother, may I sleep with danger?
So we'll talk about the movie in a little bit, but first, let's just chat about you. So from Guatemala City.
Yeah, Guatemala City.
Wow. So now what led to your just interest in film and television?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Guatemala, and I would watch movies as a kid, like nonstop, and E.T., and I would just dream about being involved in movies. But being in Guatemala, you didn't have that much access to film schools or anything. Actually, the first film school ever in the country will be just started 8 years ago, and then there's a new one that's opening at the end of this year. So when I was back there, I mean, there wasn't too much I could do except watch movies. So then I just always wanted to be involved in movies, and then my adventure started. I did my undergrad at SMU in Dallas, Texas, and that was like my first, leaving my country, leaving my family, and I went to study advertising. So I was like, let's get a real career first. And my parents were like, get a real career. We know you love filmmaking, but we don't know nothing about film, so do advertising. So then I did that, and then after I did my undergrad, I was like, I love movies. Like, this is what I need to be doing. So I enrolled in a summer filmmaking class. It was you take a beginning filmmaking class at USC. That was back in 2008. And I fell in love with movies ever since.
Now, growing up in Guatemala City and having a love for film, but not really having the access or the resources to that, what did you do growing up? Did you just try to shoot your own little films? Did you get like a video recorder, a camcorder from friends and family to try to record something?
Actually, no, not even that. I would just watch movies, study movies, and what I would do is I would direct my friends when we were at school, like for, theater, or like stuff like that. And we had this group of two of my best friends who we were obsessed with this show called Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, that very obscure show on Dawson's
obscure,
Creek. Yes.
Yeah. Because you remember Dawson, he used to love filmmaking, and he would talk about being a filmmaker. So that was like our access too. You know what I mean? So we were like, we just wanted to be like Dawson. So we would talk about movies nonstop, and not necessarily that we would grab a camera and shoot each other. We would just grab scenes from the movie, and then I would direct them, or they would direct me, and then we would just like reenact the scenes.
So now going through the program, going through USC, coming out the other side, directing and doing all that now professionally, when you think back on watching Dawson's Creek, do you feel like, well, I had the wrong impression, or it's like, no, that was pretty spot on about what it's like now?
I'd say I would have the wrong impression, you know what I mean? But it was definitely very informative when I was a young kid in Guatemala. But it's definitely not the real world.
So I would assume one of your dream projects then is to have James Van Der Beek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? James Van Der Beek. And maybe we can name him Dawson as well. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes. So now your family knows that you had this love for film, and when you decide, like, all right, I'm going to go for it. I've gone and got the real career. So you feel that I have a fallback in case. But when you said, like, all right, I want to go off and do this, were they supportive? Were they fine with, like, all right, we know you have a safety career, so to speak, in advertising. Go for it.
Yeah. I think after I did that safety career, they were like, okay, you really do want to do film. You know what I mean? You went 3.5 years to the United States. You studied something else. You came back to Guatemala, worked in advertising for a little bit, and you still wanted to do film. So then they were like, yeah, thank God I had, very supportive parents, and I still do. And they were like, yeah, go do your dreams. So then I did my class at USC, and then I fell in love with filmmaking. But then it was like 2 years where you had to get the work visa. You know what I mean? Because I got my citizenship in 2010 because my mother was born in the States.
Oh, great.
So I was able to get then. But before that, between 2008 and 2010, I just wanted to be in Los Angeles. But I couldn't. So then I went back to Guatemala and worked as a AD and in all, different capacities in commercials.
So now your friends that you grew up with and you kind of reenact and shoot each other doing these scenes, when you tell them, like, hey, I'm going off, I really want to pursue this, did any of your friends decide to pursue it as well, or were you the only one that did?
Only one that did, yeah. And when when Mother Might Sleep with Danger came out, they messaged me and they called and they were like, wow, it's so good that you actually, you know what I mean? It's one thing when people say, I want to do this, and it's another thing when people actually go pursue it. So they were like, we always wanted to do film, but we decided to, you know what I mean, go on the fallback career. And so they were, you know what I mean, very supportive and very happy that I actually followed my dreams.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to Dallas for school, what was that like? Was it, because you're leaving your friends and family, everything you know in Guatemala, you're coming here to the States, setting up shop in Dallas. Easy transition, or was it a little challenging?
It was easy in the sense that my brother was in that school. So I wanted to go to that school because my brother was there. So then, you know what I mean, I had that link with my family. Also, Dallas is like only a direct flight 2.5 hours away from Guatemala, so it's very accessible. But it was different in the sense that, like, you know, the culture is so different, like in Latin America than in the States, and certain expectations of women in Latin America are different than maybe expectations of women in the States. So it was like just learning all that, and I loved it, going into a new college with new people, because I was like, wait, there's another world, you know, there's not just Guatemala. And I made friends with people who wanted to be painters, you know what I mean, who wanted to do film, who wanted to write. And I was, I felt like I was, you know what I mean, me wanting to be a filmmaker wasn't too far off. Like I was in a world where people wanted to pursue different things that weren't just necessarily, you know, business.
Now, when you're studying advertising, are you also getting a chance to shoot commercials as part of that, or is it more just like storyboarding, coming up with concepts and ideas for whatever you might be trying to pitch on?
Yeah, it was, when I was back in Dallas, it was definitely more concepts and ideas. So like more like art direction or like copywriting. But when I went back to Guatemala after to study, to work in advertising, I did work in the production side then.
And what was it like coming back to Guatemala after, you know, you've kind of had this first little taste of what it's like in the States, the idea of like, oh, wow, I'm a little bit closer to what I'd really love to do. Was it easy going back to Guatemala? It's like, oh, this is just the next step, or you were kind of like, I'm just biding my time here until I can do the next thing?
Biding my time until I can do the next thing. Because once I went back to Guatemala, and, you know, it's great to be around your friends that you grew up with and your family, but it's just the opportunities are very limited. And I wanted to come back to the States. I mean, I wanted to move to Los Angeles. I wanted to study at USC. I wanted to, you know, be part of Hollywood, like just learn and, you know, be a small fish in a big pond rather than a big fish in a small pond back home.
So when you get to USC, what's it like? Because finally, I mean, you've been in Dallas, but you're studying advertising. Now you're finally in California. You're in USC, right here in Los Angeles, getting a chance to study film. Was it quick for you to kind of get the ball running for that, or were you like, whoa, this is a little bit faster than I'm used to, or I'm a little bit over my head and I got to play a little catch up?
I think it was, you know, you always expect things to maybe go faster than you think. So then, you know, you have this passion for film, but then you actually hold the camera and you do that, you know, beginning filmmaking class where you're put in groups of 3 and you have to go shoot 5 little films, and you alternate roles. And then you're like, and then you present it and the teachers critique it. And then you realize, oh, I don't know anything. You know what I mean? Like there is so much I need to learn, because it's, you know, it's not just watching movies or just grabbing a camera. So then that's when back in 2008, I was like, okay, I need to dedicate the next years just to studying film, like, you know what I mean, directing, like actually practicing it. And I was blessed because I was going to start my master's degree in 2009. But then in 2008, I had this mentor at USC, and he said to me, look, you're only 23 years old. Like, you need to go live, go travel, go work, you know what I mean? Go do different things, because when you come back in your late 20s to do your master's degree, you will be such a better filmmaker. because you will have better stories to tell rather than, you're just 23. And then I'll always thank him for that, because I was like, I think he's right. So then I took since I was 23, I started my master's when I was 27. So those, years I was like able to work, and I was able to, as a PA, as an AD, I started directing theater, because my mentor also said, you need to learn how to work with actors. Sometimes directors will be very technical, but you need to be in the actor's place to understand what it is they go through. So then I directed theater in the Renegade Theater and Film Group in Sunset and Gardner. Then went back home, worked, and was like doing a couple of months in Guatemala, a couple of months in LA, up until 2013, when I started my master's degree. And I was such a better filmmaker because I've had those years of experience, of heartbreak or whatever you want to call it.
So, what kind of stories do you think that you and experiences that you have during that time that you felt like enriched you as a filmmaker when you decided to start pursuing your master's?
Yeah, I went to travel. I love traveling. I learned that I love traveling by myself. So I went by myself to Thailand. I went by myself to Indonesia, and I went to all these different places and had all these different experiences traveling by myself, and met so many people. And all the people I would meet, I'd be like, oh, this could be a great character in this movie. And so I had those type of experiences. Then I had the experiences of understanding how each person involved in the movie, what they do, so I could better communicate with them when I was actually going to be directing. So, as a production assistant, assistant director, associate producer, all this other things. Even I acted in a movie because I was a PA in this movie that David Arquette was in. It was called The Cottage, and it was a horror movie. And I was, a PA, I was working, and then they needed extras. And then they were like, we need like 5 more girls for the scene. Can you be one of them? And I'm like, okay, yeah. So then I did that. So then So all these different experiences really helped me understand that it was directing that I wanted to do, and how to be a better director.
So what is, you say you learned that you love to travel alone. So what is the difference between traveling by yourself and traveling with other people? I mean, I imagine one, it's, you're on your own. You can choose to go and do things whenever you want. But what other differences are there?
Yeah, I think the main difference is, when you travel like with your partner or with a family member or a friend, even though you go out to different places and you make friends, you're still safe, in the sense that you still have that person. Or sometimes you'll go to a cafe and you won't talk to anybody because you'll just talk to your partner. You know what I mean? So it's like you have this fallback person that you can just talk to because you're comfortable with. But when you travel by yourself, you need to get out of your comfort zone. So, you know what I mean? And I realize there's a lot of people that travel, especially to Southeast Asia. They travel a lot by themselves. And you go to restaurants, you go to cafes, and you are forced to talk to other people because, you want to have that human experience. You want to communicate. But there's no one else you can, Like, hey, let's go home. You want to go home at 8? No, right?
Right.
So you make new friends. And I found that I am more present and more involved in other people's experiences and life, because I'm actually listening to, I met this friend who's now one of my best friends. She was from France. And I met her on our way to a meditation retreat that we were going to do. And I didn't know, who she was, and we were by ourselves. And then we started talking. Then we went into this 10-day silent meditation retreat. So we couldn't speak for 10 days, but we were there. And then we got out at the same time. And we just, for a whole week, we decided to just continue traveling together. And, so I feel like the great thing about traveling by yourself is you never know what's going to happen. When you're going with someone else, you make your itinerary and you stick to that.
That's true. You can never, you're kind of at the whim of whatever kind of fates may throw your way. So you can go off in any direction, and you can't, though, where you end up is maybe not at all where you intended. Now I'm curious, you mentioned that. A 10-day silent meditation?
Yes.
How was it hard for you to be silent for 10 days, or was it like, I got this in the bag?
No, it was hard. It was definitely.
And be honest, were you silent that whole time, or even when you're by yourself for a moment? Did you come on? You couldn't have been silent the entire time, were you?
No, you're right. I mean, I was silent the whole time, but then you don't realize how often you speak to yourself. You know what I mean? Especially if you don't find, like, say I was looking for my hat and I couldn't find it, and I'm in my room by myself, and I'm like, where's my hat? And I'm like, oh, I hope nobody heard that. And then it's called Vipassana, and it's this meditation technique, and they say, even talking to yourself, like, it's not necessarily only speaking with your voice, but also your mental, like your thoughts, like your thought process. So, you're constantly talking to yourself. So basically, you're not necessarily allowed, but it's like you are told to just observe yourself and not necessarily, listen to the chatter that's going on in your head. So that was just hard because you're always talking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your head, yeah. But I did find that even though it was really hard after you go through that experience, you are, it's a different perspective on life that you come out with.
Now, for that, you meet somebody from France that you're going into that. So for that 10 days, when you're there, you're like, oh yeah, this would be kind of cool to talk to, but you can't. Are you at least acknowledging each other, or are you pretty much supposed to stay kind of to yourself for that 10 days?
So yeah, you wake up at 4:30 in the morning, right, with the morning bell, and you have, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know. You have break periods, but say you meditate from like 4:30 in the morning to like 5 p.m. Obviously, you have breaks in between for lunch and, 10 minutes to stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, and then you have like 45 minutes where you can go, there's a garden, and you can't do yoga. You can't, you know what I mean? And you can't look at other people in the eyes. What you can only do is you can talk to the instructors that are there or the staff. Like, say, if you need something, you can communicate with them. But then you're not really, and then the women are separated from the men. So then we were like around 60 women, and you can't look at each other in the eyes. So you really do, like, you know what I mean? You're eating in like a corridor, and you're just like, you're like, yeah, very awkward. That's
gotta be so challenging.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the most challenging things. But I did, it really helps you with that. It really helps you be present. Mm-hmm. So when, if you apply it to film, in those moments when you're on set and things aren't necessarily going, the way that you want to, and there's stress and there's all these things happening, you can learn how to take a deep breath, and almost you don't get involved in the drama in your head. You just observe yourself, and you kind of come at everything with a more peaceful tone or peaceful way, which helps the crew and hopefully helps the movie at the end.
No, for sure. I'd imagine you're able just to kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture and not be so caught up in there. That's really cool. Yeah. Now, to be honest, I feel like anytime I've tried like yoga or meditation and stuff like that, I'm okay for a little bit, but I can only imagine for doing it for that long a stretch. I think I would fall asleep at certain points.
You fall asleep. You fall asleep. You do.
That's
you do.
And is that a no-no, or do people like come by and nudge you like, wake up?
So you have to meditate sitting up, right? Because if you lay down, then you're definitely falling asleep. But even you're so tired sometimes that, like, even if you're sitting, you still fall asleep. So then no, they don't come nudge you, because they say, like, if you fall asleep once you're meditating, sitting up, then it's okay. Your body needs it. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So let's just say at 4:30 in the morning, I wasn't, you know what I mean, that strong of a meditator, and just be sleeping.
So now, is that something you like to still do? Is travel by yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
I still do, but I still travel with other people. So travel by myself, it's those rare opportunities, and they're getting rarer as you grow up, in the sense of you don't have enough, that much time. So you maybe have time to travel twice in a year, what I mean, or once in a year, but then you do want to travel with your partner, or you want to travel like with your sister. So those moments when you want to travel by yourself, I've kept it to those 10 days of meditation, because then you have to be by yourself. Yeah, so I try to do it once a year, but sometimes it's one every 2 years.
So you would definitely go back and do another 10-day to yourself
Yes.
silent meditation. You would do it?
Yes.
Wow. All right. Look at you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm impressed. So now, in addition to traveling, you said you're working on different positions on different productions, things like that. Kind of being a sponge, absorbing what all these different positions do in terms of a production.
Yeah.
I guess certainly the great thing is that you kind of learn how you want to approach something and maybe how you don't want to approach something, based on all the experiences and the way you see other people interacting on sets, how directors interact with the cast and crew. What are the things that you kind of took away? Like, yeah, I definitely want to be more like this as a director, or it's like I want to kind of shy away from being like this as a director.
Yeah, I think definitely I really admired and loved the directors that really took the time with their actors, and there were some directors that I worked for where they, like I said, they would be very technical, but then it would be, they would talk to the cinematographer for an hour, and then it'll be, they have to start shooting, and then get the actors in, let's go, and then you talk to the actors for like 2 minutes. And I learned from the directors that really valued, and not that the others don't value, everybody has their own form of working, but what I gravitate to are the directors that really work with their actors. So like, David O. Russell, he really makes sure their actors are allowed to move within a scene, or he sees the scene play out first. And then sometimes he even attaches just, I don't know if you've heard of this, a China ball to the boom. It's like someone else next to the boom operator is holding another stick or pole, whatever you call it. And then you put the China ball. And then he's just following his actors. So that way he makes sure that all his actors are lit up. You know what I mean? He catches that moment. So instead of like having, sometimes you need this, but instead of having marks, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just like, you practice with the stand-ins, you practice with the operator, you do with the cinematographer, you do everything, and then you just bring your actors in. And you're like, okay, stand here, you stand there, and let's do the scene. And then I feel like that sort of limits the fluidity or, the whatever the moment, the actors,
spontaneity.
Exactly, thank you,
Yes.
the spontaneity. Yeah.
Now, while you're doing all this and you're observing from different parts, was there a particular position as part of the crew that you're like, wow, all right, I really didn't realize just how invaluable that was, and you've kind of kept that in mind as you've gone forward?
First AC, definitely, right? First AC, because you quickly realize, you really need a good first AC, especially because sometimes you only, you would only have time to do 1 or 2 takes, and then you go into the production, into the editing room, and then it was out of focus. So definitely, I really learned the first AC is crucial, and a first AD, because I feel like a first AD, the tone that they have and that the energy that they present to set, it's going to carry through the whole departments. And if you have an AD that's too stressed, the actors will feel it. Everybody will feel it. So I really learned how valuable an AD is to keep you on track, to help you, but also to nurture the crew, to be, calm, even though inside he or she might be freaking out.
Because I've not been on many sets, but certainly I think everybody's had that kind of experience where it's kind of a set ruled by fear, as opposed to like a set that's just more comfortable, like more nurturing.
Yes,
as you say, and I it seems so weird to me that in this time that those kind of sets that are kind of more like fear based still exist, because I feel like how can you expect to get the best out of people in a fear type situation?
Yeah.
So like a more positive thing would just seem to result in a better product.
Yeah.
So for you, when you're saying like I want to learn more about working with actors, it's one thing to start practicing for that, but when you finally start directing yourself, did you find that it was easy to like, all right, I can talk to these actors now? Or it's like, oh, I had to be a little, even though I've kind of studied and wanted to focus on that, it was a little bit of a learning curve just actually when you had to start doing it.
Yeah, definitely when I had to start doing, there was, a learning curve. But when I started USC, one of the advantages that I felt I had was because I had spent those years, because, the first time you're directing, the first time you have your actors, because it's one thing when you're directing your friends back in Guatemala. Yeah. Another thing when you actually, have to talk to your actors and, make sure, each actor has a different personality. So there was definitely a big learning curve in the beginning, and, there still is. But when I started USC, a lot of my fellow students were again very technical, but had never necessarily worked with actors. So some of their short films in the beginning were very, they were beautifully shot, but then the performance or they or when we were working on set, the actors weren't, you know what I mean, treated as well. But then because of the theater background, I did my first short film at USC where I was like, my friend, you're the DP, grab the camera and you follow those actors. And I talked to those actors extensively and rehearsed with them and just favored their performance. And so I felt like it really helped me those years before to be able to not be so afraid to talk to actors when I started at USC.
And as you're saying, it's every actor has their own personality, and every actor has a different kind of level of feedback, or I guess or directing that they want from an actor. So I mean, for you, it's got to be able to kind of read an actor and decide what is going to be the best way to direct them to get the best performance from them.
Exactly.
No,
Like you said,
yeah.
You read them because some actors need a lot more positive encouragement or need a lot more, long conversations about their character. And then other actors are like, I got this. Like, let me show you what I got. And then if you want to give me a redirect, then, give it to me. But, it's great to work with different actors. And some, it doesn't matter that they're different. It's just great to work with different people.
Now, when you you read directors like David Fincher, like having so many takes that he'll do with on a production, and then for many, like say Mother May I Sleep with Danger, you only may have like 2-3 takes to get something done because you have such a compressed shooting schedule.
Yeah.
For you, does it just having a couple of takes like just that you would prefer that, or do you like, oh, boy, if I had the luxury of doing 20, 30 takes, I would do that.
I like going fast. Like I like doing those 2-3 takes and then moving on to the next setup. I like the way the crew, the beginning of the day, once you do the first setup fast and then you get into this. You get into this synergy and everything just flows better. But then again, I've never had the opportunity to be like David Fincher and shoot 30 takes.
Yeah.
So I feel like, later on in my career, if I do have the opportunity, I would explore maybe doing 10 takes. I don't know if I'd go up to 30, but I didn't mind how fast we went with Mother May I Sleep with Danger. It was just, the first 2 days, you're like, okay, we're going really fast, but I knew this beforehand because we shot it over 16 days and we had to shoot 7 to 8 pages a day. So, you prepare for that.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Mother May I Sleep with Danger. Certainly, as you were studying at USC, one of your teachers, James Franco.
Yes.
So, now, what class did you have him for?
So it was called, basically, we do a feature, and the one we did was Actors Anonymous, and it was based on his novel by the same title. So he teaches a class every year, and it's not necessarily the class has a name, it's just he brings this project to the university, and then the faculty picks 10 directors out of, I don't know how many apply, but I was picked between those 10 directors, and then you shoot a feature film, but instead of you shooting, he used to do this in the beginning when he started teaching, you shoot, 10 directors shoot 10 short films, different from each other. But then this time it's a feature, and you shoot 12 minutes of that feature. So it's like a sequence. So basically, there's not just one director. There's 10 directors.
Do you keep the same cinematographer and the same DP, or that changes too?
No, same everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like if in Mother May I Sleep with Danger, there were 10 directors. Like, you can't tell the difference. You wouldn't know who directed what part because you want it to be the same, because you want the audience, to see the movie and, don't feel like 10 directors, directed one movie.
So for that, are you are all 10 of you getting together as a unit, kind of deciding how you want to shoot this film?
Yeah.
I got to mention, certainly with one person, that's fine. That's challenging to decide how you want to get your vision. But then you add 9 other people to that.
Yeah.
Was it easy to kind of decide, all right, this is how we're shooting this?
I mean, we had extensive conversations for weeks on end because imagine you have 10 directors. It was amazing because I learned from my fellow filmmakers, but at the same time, it's like you're trying to decide the color palette. And even that, it's like, no, some people, I think this should be green, and then others, I think this should be blue, as an example, because every little creative decision had to be approved by the 10 of us. But I would say it's great that James does this because when he was at film school, basically, he tells the story of how you do a short film. Your professors tell you, go do your short film, and then you bring it back to class, and then you get critiqued on it. But then what happens is you you're just focused on your own short film. So you're not that focused, say, like if you're doing your short film, we both are being critiqued in class. I'm worried about my film and you're worried about your film. So yeah, I can give you notes on how to make it better. You can give me notes, but we're both not that invested in each other's movies. So the way James likes to do it, which I think is great, is he gets one movie and he puts 10 directors to do that same movie. So I'm very invested in how you shot, the sequence 7, because it'll definitely affect how I'm going to shoot my sequence 10, as an example, because we're making the same movie. So my notes on your section are definitely going to come from a place of being way more invested and wanting to make the best movie possible. So I think that, he does that at USC once a year. And I did that last year, and it was definitely one of the best experiences. And of course, you're at USC and you're used to working with actors, and then all of a sudden you have to direct Eric Roberts one day, and you're like, this is amazing. It's the first time working with a star. And then most of the scenes that James was in that movie, I had to direct. So it was great because then I really had a chance to work with James on set, and it was one of the best experiences, but very nervous.
I would imagine. And especially if you're working with different actors, say you bring up Eric Roberts, many people that they've shot many films throughout their entire career. How, and I mentioned, does it vary in terms of how much, the fact that they're doing this, I guess, answers that question, that they're open to working with young directors, that they like that experience. Did you find that the case with all the actors that you're working for, or some are just like, I've got this, just let me do my thing?
I mean, I definitely feel like it was a unique experience for all the actors in the sense that you have 10 directors. So when you're directing your sequence, no other director can go and speak to your actors. Only you can. But that same actor got directed, that for that week, that same week for 8 other directors, and every director had a different style. So I do think they were all really great. They were great to work with. And they didn't mind that there were that many directors. They actually liked the opportunity to work with so many different minds. But definitely, you just, as an actor, you have 10 other directors. You want to make sure you do your thing first.
And certainly what you mentioned, I thought it was I would imagine a really cool takeaway is the fact that you have to think about not what's best for yourself, but what's best for the production. And I can imagine, because with 10 directors, I'm certainly ego gets involved with that, or the visions. You're like, all right, I got to check my ego because it's that this is just about me, and it should be about the film instead.
Yes, exactly. So definitely, I mean, just like you said, you have those moments. I mean, we all did, where it kind of tends to move more towards the ego part of it, and you're like, no, we're all making one movie, so let's help each other. So that's why it was such a great learning experience, because you learn from your other directors the way they direct the set, and you're all very invested in making the best movie possible.
So you work with James Franco for this, and you take his class, and then he approaches you about directing Mother May I Sleep with Danger. Yeah,
so I can't tell you the scenes that he played in the movie, because then it'll be a spoiler for the movie, but he had maybe 3 scenes in that movie, or 4 scenes, and I got to direct 3 of them. So then, like I said, I worked really well with him, and then 2 months later, he reached out, and he had another project in mind, and he said if I wanted to direct it. I was like, of course. So then we started working on that project.
You make it seem like I'm just hanging out. Also, my good pal James Franco just calls me up.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of those like, hey, I got this project. Would you be interested in directing?
Is there a moment where you're like, what?
Oh, definitely. Because you see your email pop up and says James Franco, and you're like, okay. And then you read, and you're like, would you be interested in directing? And the best part of that is that it's like you said, you take a moment, and you're like, wait, did I read that again? It says directing? Yes. Because, sometimes you're like, okay, you may be brought on board, but you'll start as a PA again. You know what I mean? Or you'll start in another position. But it was like, no, would you be interested in directing? I'm like, yes. So then we started working on another project. And then a couple of months after that, he reached out and he said, hey, I have Mother May I Sleep with Danger. It's a Lifetime movie. Would you be interested in directing? And I'm like, yes. What's the movie about? And he said, it's a lesbian vampire movie. And I'm like, yes, I would love to direct that. And he sent the script, I read it, and then told him yes, and we started working together with Amber.
Now, with your love of film, you mentioned E.T. as one movie that you watched, but were you a horror movie kind of fan as well? Or was this like, I like all movies, and this just happened to just, this is a cool project to work on?
I mean, horror movies, the Jason movies,
Oh, Friday the 13th? Oh, yes.
Yeah, those were scary. I watched them when I was like 10. And then I definitely like The Ring, right? I enjoy horror movies for sure. But the element that I enjoyed the most out of like Mother Might Sleep with Danger was the relationship between Pearl and Leia.
What I liked about that is it was so cool because you see what Pearl's origin, and sometimes you don't get to see that. Like if you think, like for example, they comment on Twilight in the course of in the film, and but and if you think about Twilight, you're already seeing they're already vampires at that point. You're seeing all that, but it was cool to see Pearl's origin, and then what happens after she what happens when she finds true love.
Yeah. It was definitely great to see that transformation, and then I feel like as an audience, you can relate more to her because you've seen her as a human, and then you see her getting transformed, and then she's in this battle with herself. And I felt like just like you said, it was so great to be able to show that beginning because then, you feel more for Pearl and what she's going through.
And so, of course, the thing when you think about vampire films, when you think about that is like all the rules that apply to whatever, the way you're telling your particular vampire story. So was that something that James already had kind of figured out, like, in this story, this is how the vampire myth kind of works? Or did you kind of have a chance to kind of give some feedback to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, we had extensive conversations with Amber, the writer, and James about the rules of the world. So, what were the rules of the vampire world and what were the rules of the human world? And how, because they all mix together. There's the Macbeth scenes where the vampires are there, but we're in the human world, So we definitely employed certain camera techniques or certain ways of blocking the scene where it wasn't the vampire scene. It was a human scene. And then there were others where, like, if you notice, when the vampires come and they threaten Pearl, when she's just getting out of the photography studio, they're walking in slow motion. And then there's, like, a different feel we wanted to just portray a different feel every time the vampires were on camera.
And even at the end where they're pursuing Leia, just the way it's like that accelerated running, the speed and stuff as they're kind of pursuing her into the cemetery.
Exactly.
That was cool little touches there.
James did one, and I love this, instead of vampires, they were night walkers. So that's what they were called.
Yeah, which was I thought a cool thing, and the way that their teeth, they kind of formed a. That was cool.
I know it was because it was different, right?
Yeah.
The two things you usually only just see the big.
Now that was cool. So now this cast, we've got Pearl played by Emily Mead, we've got Leah Layla George, Bob played by Nick Eversman, and then we've got reprising their role, or coming back to this film because they played the original. We have Tori Spelling and Ivan Sergey playing this, which is cool to see them kind of come back. And were they in discussions to do this film right from the top, or was it like, well, if we're doing this again, we've got to get these guys back?
They were definitely since the beginning. They were like, if we can get Tori Spelling and we can get Yvonne, then we definitely need to bring them back, because they were like, then we can really pay homage to the original. See? Yes. It's funny. Sometimes people they're like, you don't have an accent. You don't have an accent. Are you sure? Where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I have an accent. Because sometimes even if you can't hear it, or maybe you can, but in my brain, I'm translating everything. So certain words, like, what did I say? Homage.
Yes.
Yeah. Homage. How do you say?
So now for this, the story with what I liked about like the vampires, the way the Night Walkers, the way they operated is that they seem to just pursue men that were just potentially assaulting women, things like that. That seemed to be their more targets for that, which seems like such a great commentary for just what's happening today in society. Just an interesting take on that. What made James decide, like, all right, I want to not just tell a lesbian vampire story, but also add these touches to it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about James is he always uses media to portray important messages. And even if the movie's the lesbian vampire story, it still has very important themes that he wants to communicate. And we had in Actors Anonymous, we still had that theme of sexual assault. And now with the new movie I'm doing, it also has a theme for sexual assault. And then this one has, this important theme because unfortunately it is so relevant, that we need to use media to be able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess that's always the nice thing about whether it be science fiction or maybe a horror genre where you can kind of talk about something like that, but you overlay it with that sort of genre aspect to it. So it makes it more a way for audiences
More digestible.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Instead of like hitting you over the head, it's just a different way to get into the story.
A PSA.
Exactly. Where James is just sitting there, guys. This is what
not okay.
That's right. Now, for this, you have 16 days to do this. When you figure out what the production schedule is, are you kind of freaking out a little bit, going, "Oh, this is challenging to get all this done in 16 days," or you're like, "No, I got this. I can get this done."
I mean, it was definitely challenging, but I was very fortunate that in Actors Anonymous, the 3 days that I had to direct my part, it was also 7 to 8 pages, with stars involved and a party and an overdosing and many, many elements involved. So I was able to, see what it felt like to work with 2 cameras and shoot 8 pages. So I was less afraid for this movie. But still, you have to be 8 pages, 16 days. But it's just, you have 2 cameras. We had great DPs. James was there, and I learned so much from him. So after the first day, I was like, oh no, this is great. We can shoot 10 pages a day if we want. Yeah.
Now, you say James is there, and he's not the only one that's in front of the camera as well, playing his assistant right there. He pulls you in. It's like, we need an assistant. Hey, guess what? You're going to do it. So when he looks to you and says like, hey, all right. Yeah. Did you have flashback to being, a PA on that film and like, all right, I guess I'm going to be one of the 5 women being, terrorized here.
Yeah. It's a crazy flashback. No. But no, yeah. I mean, we were talking about he should have an assistant, and then he gives me this look, and he's like, you should be the assistant. And I'm like, no. Because they say directors need to be able to act to be better directors. But I mean, there's some directors who just don't necessarily enjoy being in front of the camera acting. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. I just don't feel like I've had, the training. And you have the director cap on. And then we were like, no, it's be an assistant. And we were 10 minutes before we started shooting. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll be the assistant. And then before you know it, I'm going through makeup, getting, my hair done and stuff. And it's like, I don't know, it's one thing to direct James, Mm-hmm. And then there's another thing when you're acting with one of the biggest stars and he's improvising next to you. It's like, I don't know, it's like if you're a basketball player and it's not you are telling Michael Jordan how to play. It's Michael Jordan's like, hey, Frank, you want to come play? Let's play. And then you got to play ball, but you have to be able to play at his standard. Mm-hmm. So I was definitely nervous, but it was great. It was a great scene. James did great, and I was just trying not to laugh the whole time because it was so funny. Because he's improvising, so he's giving you so much that you don't necessarily see in the movie.
Now, I'm just wondering, so you've already worked with James, you've taken his class, but when you're directing him and you have like a note, you watch a scene, you're like, I want to know something. The first time that happens, is there a moment you're like, I'm giving James a note. This is going to be kind of awkward. Or is it like, it's all right. We've done this before. It's not going to be an issue.
Yeah. For this one, it was definitely like, yeah, we've done this before. We have like a good working relationship. I can tell you, I can give you a note. But for Actors Anonymous, it was definitely, the first time he was on set, I was directing him and I had to give him a note. And it was always like, that half step where like, I gotta get, you still have to give the note because you have to, as a director, you gotta get the scene you want. But thank God, like James, he likes working with students and stuff. So even if you give him a note, he's a very receptive actor and he really gives you what you want. So after you give him the first note, he takes it so well that you're like, oh, okay, I can keep giving you notes and it's fine. But then you realize that you maybe only gave him 2 notes in a day because he's such a good actor. He takes the scene, he reads it once, and then he improvises and he adds his own things, but he hits those important beats. Mm-hmm. So then you realize you don't necessarily need to give him that many notes like you would have someone else.
Now, he plays the director of the Hamlet productions going on there. So for you, with the chance to direct some theater, when you're kind of taking a little break before you did your master's program, mm-hmm. So you get to actually do a relationship film, vampire, kind of like a little horror genre to it, but then you also get to do like Shakespeare, a little mini Shakespeare production. So what was it like being able to kind of take some of everything that you kind of done while you're on your sabbatical before you started the master's and kind of have this film to kind of combine all those different influences on?
Oh, it was great. It's like you have this opportunity to involve theater, and be able to have Macbeth, you know what I mean, be played by Leah, and then have that moment. And then you have the horror, you have the Nightwalkers. There were so many great elements to this movie that it was just so fun to direct, because, you know, it wasn't only one world. And then going back to what I was telling you about the worlds, I forgot to mention that there were 3 worlds. It was also the theater world, you know, so we had a lot to play with.
Now, the Bob, I felt like an interesting character with him, because at first it seems like, all right, he's just kind of like the in puppy love, kind of, you know, just has this crush on this girl that, you know, doesn't have interest in him as more than just a friend. And then he just does this heel turn in the course of the movie. Well, the first that was kind of creeped me out was that he had Tori Spelling's phone number there as Julie, the mother.
Yeah.
It's like, how many people just have somebody's mother's phone right there on speed dial? Like, all right, just going to call you right up. But then he does this heel turn, and then it's just interesting to see where the Bob's journey through the course of this film. And so it was interesting because you think about it's all lesbians for the vampire film, but then all of a sudden you introduce a man into the mix. Mm-hmm. What was it like, I guess, in the vampire folklore that you're kind of doing there? How did having a man become a Nightwalker kind of add to the dynamic of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, like we had our Nightwalkers only go after abusive men. And then it was interesting seeing Bob's trajectory, like you said. I mean, because in the beginning you don't know if he's, you know, he's a little bit too, like he wants to hang out with Leah too much, but he's also, you know, he's been a neighbor, he's been a friend, like, you know, they've known each other for so long. So it's always like, yeah, I don't know. Then he calls Julie, and then you see his transformation where you go from like, oh, he's a nice guy, to like, oh, yeah, you know, maybe not, or there's something off with him. And it was definitely great to be able to get Bob, because we entertained the idea of many ideas of like, okay, so Bob becomes a Nightwalker, but then, you know, they only go after abusive men. But then we wanted to pay homage. You see, it's that word. I'm trying. I might be able to get it after this interview. You know how in the original movie, the movie ends, and then you still see Vaughn at the end, Ivan, you know what I mean, at another college campus, kind of looking for his next victim. So we really wanted to use that and make it into this new movie where at the end it's Bob who's the bad guy, you know, and he's looking to hunt. So basically the Nightwalkers aren't dead. They're actually, you know, still out there.
What I liked about that is, and certainly you think about like vampires, that if they are injured or something in the course of whatever the story is, they have an amazing healing factor.
Yeah.
For this, with your version and your take on the Nightwalkers, the damage that happens to them, I mean, they might heal a little bit, but it's not completely. Man, they're just the makeup and stuff was just incredible, and I was not expecting that. That was a really nice little reveal of that. All of a sudden, you just like that they just took all those scars and battle wounds that they had, and they're stuck with them.
Yeah, they're stuck with them because that's the if they're not gonna die, that's the punishment that they were able to give to them. You know what I mean? Because we decided they're not gonna die, and then we were like, okay. James had this idea of like putting, you know, getting the eyes out, gouging all this stuff, and we were like, we loved it. Like, let's definitely do that. And then we're like, they should have the scars at the end, because also this Nightwalkers, vampires, they don't have like, you know what I mean? Usually vampires are like really strong, or they have other superhero qualities. Mm-hmm. Well, ours didn't. So because we've created this world, we also could get away with the fact that they had scars at the end, you know?
And I guess I'll just give a quick little spoiler heads up. If you haven't seen this yet, quick little spoiler. So we'll just give you a little 5 count, because I have one question that I want to ask. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, here's a spoiler. So at the end, Julie gets bit. Bob bites her. Mm-hmm. But we don't see her turn. Does she turn, or is she gone? Or is that something?
She's gone.
She's gone. So she was like drained completely. So she.
Yeah. So,
gotcha. Okay.
Because, you know, in the beginning, when we see Pearl's transformation, mm-hmm. she needs to get out of her neck. She's drinking the blood, but she needs to get out in time. That's why when Pearl is converting, you know, is transforming Leia, she needs to get out on time. So it's that delicate balance of like, I'm hungry, you know, I want more blood, but I also need to remove myself from drinking your blood in time, because if not, I'm going to kill you. So with Bob, he was just out to kill Julie.
Okay.
So that's why he kept on biting, and our poor Julie was gone.
Oh, man. And such an interesting thing that the idea for the Nightwalkers is that if you find your true love and you turn them, then you can feed off each other. But the fact that to find your true love, you have to put them through so much pain and agony to get to a point where it's going to be like eternal happiness with this other person. But you've got to like walk through hell to just get to that point. And what a tremendous leap of faith for somebody to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
An interesting choice for that too. Like, you always see like, oh, we're just going to be. Well, we never really see too much of this outcome in terms of vampire movies. You always just see like Dracula feasting after his victims, things like that, or chasing after like a love that's not requited. But to actually see it come through, and somebody's willing to make that leap of faith and say, all right, I'm willing to be turned by you and spend eternity with you because I love you that much. That was a nice twist to the vampire story. Well, did you always have that in mind, or is that something that James had in mind? Like, I want to give this as best it can be, sort of like a nice happy ending for Pearl and Leah.
It was definitely something we talked about since the beginning. It was definitely something James wanted, and I think it was great because we're taking on this journey with the relationship between Pearl and Leah, and at the end, Leah has been, she's alone. Julie just died. She has no one. So even before, Leia's so in love that she wants to be turned, you know what I mean? And Pearl tells her no at the cemetery. So we really wanted to have that end, a happy ending for Pearl and Leia, where they would both just be able to have the eternal bond. And we wanted to be able to show that as well in the movie.
Well, I enjoyed it. It was just a great reimagining of the entire concept. Yeah. So cool. I mean, and
did you see the original?
I had not seen all the original. It's one of those like the Mother May I Sleep with Danger. I think everybody just knows the great title, and of course Tori Spelling during that time was always doing so many of those kind of Lifetime movies and being a young adult in danger. So everybody knew that as a punchline, but to see the reimagining of it just in a completely different direction that you would not, if you heard those two titles, you would not think, oh, okay, this is a lesbian vampire film. All right, I would not have thought that. It was such a great little twist. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So now, what are you working on now? I know you got a couple of projects. You can't really spoil too much, but what can you say about what you're currently working on?
I'm working on another movie with James.
Close personal friend, James Franco.
And I can say it involves strong female characters again. It involves more blood, and important themes. But that's all I can say.
All we're getting now. Can I just throw out Mother May I Sleep with Danger 2?
Hopefully.
I was trying to see if that would be the project. Nope. All right, I couldn't get it out. All right. Fine, Melanie. Fine.
Too soon.
Well, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of iTalk Movies. We've had the lovely and talented Melanie Aitkenhead. Now, Melanie, if they want to continue the conversation with you or reach out and find you on the social media there, where's the best place for them to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, they can find me at Instagram. It's Mel Aitkenhead. And they can find me at Twitter at Mel Aitkey.
Oh, Mel Aitkey. All right. Very nice.
Half my last name. So no more Aitkenhead.
And Actors Anonymous coming out later this year?
Actors Anonymous came out already.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah, it did. It came out, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. All right. So, and where can they find that? Just on demand? On iTunes, things like that?
On demand, yeah. iTunes and on demand.
All right. Well, check that out. You can see her 12 minutes.
Yeah,
do you want
12 minutes.
Oh, do you want to give her
the climax of the movie.
Ooh, all right. Very cool. All right. There you go. See if you can spot Melanie's 12 minutes in there. All right.
It starts with the party.
That's the only thing you're getting. That's it. Folks, thanks so much for watching us. If you want to follow me, you can do that on Twitter at HappyGoJackie, and we'll see you next time on another episode of iTalk Movies here on Popcorn Talk. Take care.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.